Welcome back to SwitchCorner, my name is Alex, and today we're going to be taking a look at BloodRayne Betrayal Fresh Bites on the Nintendo Switch, a re-release of a title from WayForward and released originally way back in 2011. How does it fare in 2021, and is it a welcome addition for your Switch library? Well, hit subscribe if you love the Switch, as much as we all do here, join our growing family, and let's get started. The story, and here the Brimstone Society have summoned Rayne for a final mission. Lead a group of soldiers to infiltrate a castle to go to war. That castle, it just happens to be owned by your father. With the war here being more, let's say, supernatural, these soldiers, they prove next to useless, even if they are still a little bitter about your presence. From there though, it's down to you to basically win this battle. The story, it's fine, it's got some decent dialogue, there's a few nice scenes here and there, it's got a good grasp of kind of escalating the situation, I will give it that much, and I think honestly what it could have done more with this unique world, it was also enough. So gameplay, and that is really what you are here for, and I'm happy to say it is good stuff. Gonna put this out there immediately, I never played this back at release originally, so I really wasn't kind of like sure what to expect given the 2D spin, and it's essentially a combination of platforming, combat, and of course blood-sucking. The controls first off though, extremely fine-tuned, and I always felt like Rayne was just completely responsive. I spent most of my time as well with this one in handout, and there it actually felt particularly well suited. With that note actually as well, a good proportion of the gameplay you are watching today that was captured internally on the Switch. Those tight controls as well, a good thing, because even though they've rebalanced the difficulty for this re-release, I still would not call this game easy. Now fans of the original may be concerned about that as well, you do not need to be. If you prefer, you can still jump into the more challenging original setup. The only control mechanic I actually didn't like in the game was a backflip that required a flick of the left stick. It feels just a tad awkward and a little maybe weaker than everything else that is on offer. It also though becomes a needed mechanic with progression. The gameplay though is simple, linear levels, enemies appear, take them out, and then occasionally face off against a boss moment. In your repertoire of skills, you've not only got the standard movement, the jump and ability to wall jump, but also a melee attack, a dash which gives you kind of a split second of invincibility. You can grab opponents when they are stunned, you can even detonate and taunt them when you do gain, let's say, a certain skill set. You can shoot a gun, and you'll actually get a few options later in the game that can be switched out for. It even has a very few like minor puzzle moments here and there just to kind of round the package out. The progression here though, it has a few different setups. Sometimes it will allow you to like simply progress left to right, but other times it will actually lock you in an arena with like multiple enemies on screen. It's going to ask you to clear them before you can move on. The most unique element to this game though, it's got to be your health meter. Now yes, the game restores health when you do hit checkpoints. These are lovely little fountains overflowing with blood, but also then once an enemy is stunned, you can grab them and chow down on their neck just to kind of restore a little health. It adds almost a layer of strategy that most in the genre do not have, because sometimes here you won't want to beat them to, you know, a bloody pulp, because that's basically dinner that you're throwing away. Also infecting enemies, this is when you just take a nibble and tap that A button. This sends the enemy into a glowing state, then you can make them explode. That means it will take out their buddies at the same time. The game's mechanics then are reinforced with boss moments and enemies that definitely ask you to leverage your full skill set, which I really did appreciate. It makes for some entertaining set pieces as they kind of like, I guess, like tower over you. All this positivity around the controls though, one issue I did have, the tutorials, they are text based, they pop up on screen. It's not honestly quite enough to get you comfortable with them. It could have maybe done with, you know, refreshing this system just a little bit, get them a little bit more involved to get you through them and kind of up to optimal performance. Also on complaints, while 95% of the game, the exploration, the combat, the general progression is solid, there's the occasional moment that just kind of feels like out of place and luck based. They're few and far between, I'll put that out there, but a moment as an example, you're falling from the sky, you need to avoid deadly objects in your way. It's minor, but I figured it was worth a shout out. There's also then finally another guest, shall we say, that you can actually transform, and you will control them at this point. Couldn't help but almost get a Flappy Bird vibe from this moment, and I was honestly just happy to see them gone. The only other element to gameplay I want to discuss then is replayability. Not the longest of games, I'd say maybe 6 to 8 hours for me to overcome the 15 contained stages. Thankfully though, each stage is going to drive you to come back. It awards a ranking. Not going to be easy to get a high one. You can also, as I said, change that difficulty. Finally, in each stage you can collect skulls. These skulls allow you to actually level up Rayne in a couple of different ways, and it just drives a little extra exploration from you. I maybe found 30% in that first pass. Overall though, for gameplay, I think this is solid work. It plays good, it still feels great 10 years later, and that combat here, just incredibly visceral as you find yourself facing progressively more challenging opponents with obviously more complicated, attack patterns. So visually, when I first saw it, I really wasn't kind of sure on the visual style they had gone for. Something didn't feel right. Getting into it though, seeing it in motion, that concern was quickly pushed aside because I really do like the cartoony visual style they adopted. It's a game packed with really nice animations, especially of course for Rayne. The bosses are huge, it doesn't feel dated in the slightest, and it allows for a huge amount of gore and blood to cover your screen, which is always kind of refreshing. I say that as well because it would have been very easy to kind of censor this one, slap the Twilight name on it instead, but I'm just happy to see they left it intact and kind of over the top as ever. Environment wise then, there's some nice locations. It's kind of very dull in its colour palette given, the castle setting they are rocking, but yeah, I thought overall just really good stuff. My only real complaint visually, not a huge amount of enemies contained in the game. The ones we do get though, incredibly creative, which goes quite a long way to making up for it. Audio finally, and first off we get a voice cast. We get original cast members Laura Bailey and Trey Baker reprising their roles, and then a few new additions to kind of breathe some real life into this story. There's little in the way of cutscenes with this one, so this felt like a real nice touch to kind of, add almost an air of quality. Music then, it's mostly got a synth kind of metal vibe to it all, and again, decent enough. I wouldn't listen to it out of the game, but it definitely plays into the gothic theme all over this one. So the final verdict on BloodRayne Betrayal Fresh Bites was a nice surprise, not because I had low expectations going in, rather I just didn't know what to expect. I knew it was an older game, could have very easily been average by today's standards. Instead though, they've come in, they've made some balancing tweaks, and the gameplay is just solid. The combat is great fun, it's got a dash of strategy to it all, and yeah, I just did not expect that. Top that off then with a nice cartoon-like style with tons of gore and the obvious synth metal style soundtrack, and I see no reason why fans would be disappointed. Also, this one on the Switch, it runs absolutely perfectly. BloodRayne though, it's a fantastic series as well, one I grew up with, and I'm hoping this leads now to future releases for the name because it's a character and a world worthy of the attention. A great 8 out of 10 from me today, and an easy one to recommend. Will you be adding this one to the library though? Have you already, and did you play it previously? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. With that then, a shout out to the patrons of the channel who are going above and beyond to support SwitchCorner. It helps more than you know, so thank you all so much. Then hit subscribe if you love the Switch, as much as we all do here. Join our growing family, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.